Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So I woke up to seeing this screenshot that the Ring magazine put up, making it sound like Bob Arum is surprisingly pushing for a Xander Zayas versus Jaron Ennis fight, which is really good news. If it were true, the Ring, they put up this caption that says, Bob Arum tells the Ring he would like to see Xander Zayas welcome Jaron Boots Ennis to the super welterweight division. And then if you look at the bottom of the post, they share a quote from Bob Arum, which reads, I think Xander Zayas versus Jaron Ennis would be a terrific fight. Ennis is a really good fighter. That would be a major fight. And then at the very bottom with the red background, and I just noticed this right now, the Ring puts Bob Arum on Zayas' next fight. So once again, the Ring is making it sound like Bob Arum, he wants this to be Xander Zayas' next fight. So this news, it sounds too good to be true. So I started looking for the actual interview that Bob Arum did to see if he actually said that we want to welcome Jaron Ennis to the junior middleweight division. So I end up finding the interview, and not only did I find the interview, but I found out that Bob Arum didn't say this to the Ring. He said this to YSM Sports Media.
What do you want to see next for Xander?
Well, I don't know about the opponent, but I want to make his first title defense in Puerto Rico this winter.
Who do you think could be the mega fight for him? Do you think a guy like Jaron Ennis in the future makes the most sense?
That would be really good. Ennis is a really good fighter. That would be a major fight.
Okay, so that confirms that Jaron Ennis versus Xander Zayas, it is not happening next. In fact, even after Zayas beat Garcia, he mentioned other fighters that he would like to fight, like Murder Zaliev and this fighter and that fighter, but he did not mention Boots' name. And we know he's not fighting against Murder Zaliev next. Bob Arum, he just said he wants Xander Zayas' next fight to be in Puerto Rico. And usually on Top Rank, when it comes to non-black boxers in particular, fighting in their own backyard, they seldomly choose to fight a really tough opponent. Not like the black Americans do. We've seen the type of fighters that Keyshawn Davis and Shakur Stevenson was fighting in their own hometown. Now, to Xander Zayas' defense, I do believe that he wants to fight the top guys in that weight class. I mean, let's not forget, he went after Sebastian Fundora. Fundora, he vacated that belt. And after all, for now, Xander, he is the only undefeated boxer to even mention Murder Zaliev's name. So I believe he does want to fight somebody like a Murder Zaliev in the near future, just not in his very next fight, especially not in Puerto Rico. I would be even more impressed with Xander Zayas if he fights someone in the top 5 or even the top 10 in this next fight. So let's see what happens. Now let's talk about Boots. So a couple of days ago, there was a report that Josh Kelly, he was offered the fight. He was offered to fight against Jaron Ennis. And to nobody's surprise, he turned it down. They basically came out right away saying that it was a lowball offer. But if it was a lowball offer, how come they didn't try to come back with a counter offer? I mean, after all, that's the way negotiations work, right? You go low, I go high, and then we find something in between or just something that we both like. But Josh Kelly's team, they didn't do that because he never wanted to fight. Because he knew how dangerous of a fight that was. He looks up to someone like a Jaron Ennis Boots. So now Jaron is still looking for an opponent to make his debut at 154. Now, according to Josh Kelly's team, Eddie Hearn told them, you got 24 hours to accept the offer because we have a lot of opponents that we're looking at. Now, when it comes to Josh Kelly as an opponent, is that a fight that we all wanted to see? No, it's not. But the reality is, this is Jaron Ennis' first fight at 154, and we really just want to see how he's going to adjust to the new weight. Is he going to look the same? Is he going to be as strong? Is he going to be as fast? Now, by way of contrast, when David Benavidez moved up to 175 and he fought Gufstick, that wasn't a fight that the fans wanted, but at the same time, we got to see how David Benavidez was going to look at a heavier weight. Since he's so big at 168, the majority of fans wanted to know how he would adjust to fighters his same size. And we found out when David Benavidez, he was just hitting Gufstick at will and couldn't knock him out. And David Benavidez, he would even say in the post-fight press conference when he was asked, what has he learned about fighting at the lightweight division? And he said, man, I learned that these guys, they can take a punch and they hit a lot harder. So the obvious point is, if fans didn't care about who David Benavidez fought in his first fight when he moved up in weight, why is the energy different when it comes to Jaron Ennis? That's a rhetorical question. We know what time it is. The standards will always be set much higher for a Black American boxer because these race fans and the whole boxing world, they see these Black American fighters as being so talented, so dominant, that while everyone else plays the video game on normal mode and some often play on easy mode, Black Americans are always expected to play on hard mode or very hard mode. Let's just forget about Josh Kelly for a second and imagine if it just got announced that Xander Zayas is going to fight against Virgil Ortiz in his very next fight. We all know the fans would welcome that fight. But then when it comes to Jaron Ennis fighting against Xander Zayas, now it's, oh, Zayas is not ready. You know, he's too young and et cetera, Boots is cherry picking. Once again, you see how the standards are set much higher because they know how talented these Black American boxers are. One of the other major factors is they just don't want to see a non-Black boxer lose to a BA. What's real funny is I remember when Eddie Hearn, he first came out, and I reported on it. He first came out and he said that we are trying to make the Virgil Ortiz fight. They want to make that Jaron Ennis' very next fight, right? So I reported on it. So once all these race fans thought that Jaron was going to fight against Virgil Ortiz next, now I'm seeing comments in my comment section saying, why is he not fighting a champion? Virgil Ortiz don't have a belt. Why is he cherry picking? Why is he not fighting Murder Aliyev, et cetera, et cetera? And then I drop a video reporting the fact that Jaron Ennis, he's about to be Xander Zayas' mandatory. Now all of a sudden they saying, oh man, Xander, he's not ready. He's too young. When they talk about age, let's look at the dichotomy. When Devin Haney was 21, what was he, 21, 22 years old? He was calling out Lomachenko. Not only did he call out Lomachenko, but he forced Lomachenko to vacate his belt just to avoid Devin Haney. Haney was the most avoided boxer at age 21. Mike Tyson was the youngest heavyweight, 21 or 20? And yet he was the most dangerous fighter in the sport of boxing. So let me tell you race fans something. Once you become a champion, the training wheels are off. Ain't nobody holding your hand anymore. You can't make any excuses saying, oh, he's still young, he's still this, and he's still that, because we know you guys would not say that if the champion was Black and he was 21 years old. And by the way, Devin Haney, he had to force Lomachenko to take that fight. The only reason Lomachenko took that fight was because Devin Haney became undisputed and had all the belts. Lomachenko had nowhere else to go. Now, this whole situation with Jaron Ennis is really analogous to the Andre Ward situation when Andre Ward moved up to light heavyweight. Now, just in case you guys don't remember, Andre Ward, he was a champion at 168. He's the pound for pound best fighter in the world. You know, that torch was passed from Floyd Mayweather to him. And at this time, HBO, they were trying to replace Floyd Mayweather with somewhat of a non-Black Floyd Mayweather. You know, turn him into a star, hoping that they could find someone like a Floyd Mayweather to be as big as him, but just not with his complexion. Well, HBO, they failed miserably when it came to that because Golovkin, he never became a superstar, and HBO Boxing went out of business when they lost Floyd Mayweather. But before they went out of business, Andre Ward, he had been chasing Gennady Golovkin for quite some time. But HBO, they wanted to protect Golovkin from Andre Ward. They wanted to keep him on easy mode, while once again expecting Andre Ward to play the game on hard mode, very hard mode. In fact, they gave him a proposal. They told Andre Ward, basically, why don't you leave Gennady Golovkin alone, move up to 175, and fight the crusher Sergey Kovalev. Now, guys, remember, at this time, Sergey Kovalev, he was undefeated. He was considered pound for pound, top 3, the best fighter in the world. Some old media websites even had him at number 1. So this is what HBO is asking Andre Ward to do. They're asking him to move up in weight and fight the best guy at that weight class. But he does it with a 3-fight deal. He doesn't move up to 175 and fight Kovalev right away. He takes 2 easier fights to get adjusted to the weight. Remember, there was one guy he fought by the name of Alexander Brand. Nobody had ever heard of him. And I remember at this time, Andre Ward, he went on to Jim Lampley's show, The Fight Game, right? This was right after the 3-fight deal was signed. So Jim Lampley is interviewing Andre Ward with some chick that was on the show. I think her name was like Michelle Beadle or something like that, but she was horrible. And it was an extremely disrespectful interview to Andre Ward. But one of the questions that Michelle asked Andre Ward was, why did you need 2 fights before you fight against Kovalev? Why didn't you just agree to fight him right away? And Andre Ward, with this curious smirk on his face, he just replies by saying, what's the rush? Which his point was, we've already agreed to fight. So what's the problem? What's wrong with me taking 2 easier fights before I fight the toughest guy in the weight class and one of the best fighters in the world at a new weight class? And just understand this, guys. A tune-up for a BA, a Black American boxer, is nowhere near the same thing as a tune-up for a non-Black boxer. Because HBO, who asked Andre Ward to move up to 175, were the same people who criticized Andre Ward for taking quote-unquote tune-up bouts before he fought Sergey Kovalev. Remember, Andre Ward, he fought Sullivan Barrera in his very first fight at 175. Sullivan Barrera was a prospect, a Cuban prospect, and a top contender. In fact, I watched him spar against Gennady Golovkin, and man, he was putting in some work. I was there in Big Bear at Golovkin's training camp, and he was sparring with the former cruiserweight champion, Murat Gassiev. This was before he became the champion, but he was a top contender. And Golovkin, he kept dropping him over and over again. It was like he was sparring with a little kid. And I kind of got the feeling that Golovkin, he was putting on a display because I was there covering it all. And the only reason I say this is because Golovkin, he just did a couple of rounds with Murat, and then he was about to get out the ring. Sullivan Barrera, he was standing on the apron, and he was asking Golovkin, he was like, hey, man, can I get some work too? So then Golovkin, he said, he had this look on his face like, oh, okay, man. So he got back in the ring, but once he sparred with Sullivan Barrera, it was a complete different sparring session. They were going back and forth, and it was more like a 50-50 type of sparring session. So this is the first guy that Andre Ward chose to fight when he moved up to 175. Here's my point when it comes to Boots. As long as Boots is planning on fighting the top guys in the very, very near future, I'm talking about like within the next 3 fights like Andre Ward did with Sergey Kovalev, then it really doesn't matter who he fights when it comes to his first fight at the new weight class. We know that when Boots was at 147, his goal was to unify all of the belts. And now there's already talks of him going after one of the belts, which is Xander Zayas' belt. And we all know you can only go after one belt at a time when you have multiple champions, obviously. And let me just say this as well. Since Murtazaliev is the most avoided fighter at 154 or the most avoided champion, style-wise, I think he might be one of Jaron Ennis' easiest fights. And the reason why I say this is because he stands up straight, he doesn't move that much, and he doesn't have the best defense. Now, of course, he does have crippling power, which gives him a very good puncher's chance to win the fight. But outside of that, when it comes to skill, when it comes to overall, if Jaron Ennis is the same fighter that he was at 147, oh yeah, man, I feel that Murtazaliev is tailor-made for Jaron Ennis. In fact, Xander Zayas might be a more tougher fight just because of his foot movement and the fact that he ties up a lot. And he has speed and knows how to box as well. So once again, man, as long as Jaron Ennis, he has all of these guys on his very, very short hit list, I'm not talking about 2-3 years from now. I'm talking about within a year, within the first 2 years, that it's not a problem who his next opponent or who his first opponent at 154 is going to be. Because once again, nobody cared who David Benavidez's first opponent was going to be when he moved up to 175. With that being said, I'm going to wrap this video up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called LO Key Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to LODekey.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.